AstraZeneca, the British pharmaceutical giant, for the first time has admitted in court papers that its COVID-19 vaccine, Covishield, can result in a rare side effect known as thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. It's a rare condition in which blood clots form in unusual places in the body and the number of platelets in the blood drops. Its symptoms also include severe headaches and abdominal pain. Following this acknowledgement, a multi-million-pound lawsuit was filed against the company alleging serious harm and deaths linked to the vaccine. According to court statements, Covishield was developed by AstraZeneca and manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, and in rare instances can lead to the syndrome. This vaccine was extensively administered throughout India, remember, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us at this point is Padam Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman, Nephron Clinic. We also have Dr. P.S.V. Rao, Consultant Surgeon, Manipal Hospital, Hebbal, Bengaluru, joining us. Dr. Narendra Saini, former Joint Secretary, IMA, is live with us. Patrikrit Pain, International Affairs Expert, also joins us live. Ashok Sajanar, former Ambassador, also is joining the broadcast. Let me begin with you first, Dr. Bagai. What do you make of this revelation, this admission now by AstraZeneca, the manufacturers of Covishield?
Everyone, I think this is a bridge under the water. This has been in public domain since the past 4 years. So let me quote just some of the studies amongst 184 which are in front of me on my desk as I speak. And most of them have shown that the risk of any thrombotic event, that means thromboembolic, that means a blood clot, be it in the brain, in the lungs, in the deep vessels of the abdomen or in the legs, is approximately, as far as the vaccine is concerned, is approximately 58 to 126 times lesser than COVID itself. There is sufficient data to show that 2 shots of AstraZeneca, and there are large studies. Some of them have shown studies in 34 million doses, some have shown in 10 million doses, that the vaccine itself has a lesser incidence of thromboembolic phenomena than COVID itself, and indeed as compared to a general population. So whenever you gauge any side effect, a side effect is gauged on 3 different aspects: side effects of the vaccine versus the incidence of the same illness or complication which we see in general population versus COVID itself, because this was targeting COVID. So without any element of doubt that the vaccine has prevented death, the efficacy has been extremely good. Millions of lives have been saved because of the vaccine. The vaccine has a lesser thromboembolic phenomena or blood clots than COVID itself, and it has a lesser complication than the general population. The largest study, and I'm quoting it as I read, the largest study has actually been published in British Medical Journal in February this year, 26 February 2024. This is the global data across 8 countries of 99 million vaccines. They have compared 13 different side effects, and it is unequivocally shown that this vaccine is safe. It causes certain amount of risk as far as thromboembolic phenomena, more in women, lesser than the age group of 60, even little bit more under the age group of 30. Those people who have a particular genetic disorder known as PF4, platelet factor 4. But overall, this vaccine efficacy is good. It is safe. It is better to get a vaccine than to land up with COVID complications, long COVID, and indeed COVID-related thromboembolic phenomena. Over to you.
Right. Let me take that across to Patrikrit Pain as well, because Patrikrit Pain, at the end of the day, of course, this admission will send ripples across the world, given the fact also that WHO was so swift, to push vaccines like the ones manufactured by AstraZeneca, but pretty hesitant with Covaxin, manufactured by our own Indian, Bharat Biotech.
Well, the issue of probably certain kind of delay that was perhaps deliberately, I presume, was done by certain elements in terms of clearing the Bharat Biotech vaccine is an issue. But, if you look at particularly the issue of this one, I think, it's being amplified a little too much, because even though I'm not a doctor, you have 2 veteran doctors sitting over here, but I don't think there is any kind of drug or any kind of vaccine ever made in the world which does not have any kind of side effect, and those side effects are generally written. Now, we have to look at it from the perspective of a reference point. because unfortunately there will be some people who will try to rake it up even during the election while trying to pin down the government. But we have to look at it from the perspective of the reference point from where the whole fight against the COVID started. Generally, a vaccine, if I'm not mistaken, would generally take 4-5 years of clinical trials and research to come up with. Now, the kind of situation the world was grappling with, especially a country like India with 140 crore people and that kind of density of population, the government also and everybody else was racing against time to find out a solution so that hundreds of millions of lives can be saved. Now, from that perspective, what the government did, or any other government anywhere in the world did in terms of ensuring that the vaccines are administered in the right manner within the shortest possible time, I think that was good enough. From the perspective, I have no bias in favor of AstraZeneca or against it, but I'm only saying this much, that the pharma companies and the vaccine manufacturers also probably took the best of the initiatives to ensure that the vaccines remain pretty safe otherwise. But there are certain issues that we have witnessed, primarily with those who had a certain level of comorbidity. If you see some incidents which did come up after the COVID situation, where people suddenly died of heart attack, I can tell you one thing about 2 people I personally know. Barely coming out of the COVID, within 2 weeks, they started doing intense exercise. Now, if you do something like that, in spite of all the precautions or the cautions that the doctors, the medical fraternity had given generally in public, that you should be a little more careful because you don't know the kind of damage the entire COVID had done to your body. So there has been issues with respect to people exerting themselves and having consequences. But in general, if you look at it, Uday, as a layman, if I have to say, I think 99.99% people, or even far more than that, have been reasonably safe after taking the vaccine, and we should be grateful that the vaccines came out in the right time. Yes, there are certain issues, as Dr. Bagai also rightly mentioned, specifically to certain kind of comorbidity or genetic issues that certain people would have. Those kind of exceptions would definitely be always there, and that is there for every drug. So I think we need to look at it from the right perspective and context rather than to ensure that it does not create some kind of a fear mongering or a panic, which would have will be far more counterproductive than anything else. I think everybody had the right kind of intention, but to bring it down into less than a year to bring out a vaccine to ensure that you have the best of the quality and the last mile it reaches to everybody. I think everybody did what was possible for them in the shortest possible time. So I think if there are some remedial measures, those people with certain genetic challenges or comorbidity should take precautions. But otherwise, I don't think if people remain generally, conscious about what kind of exertion they can do generally on a daily basis, I think they're pretty safe. That's my understanding as a layman. I'm not a doctor. Back to you.
Yes, Dr. Bagai, you wanted to respond. Go ahead.
I just missed one important point for all the viewers and the panelists. It's surprising that the lawsuit is filed in UK, whereas the largest study within Europe, which is through EMA, European Medical Association, was published in April of 21, in which they had 86 cases of thromboembolic phenomena amongst 34 million doses. The incidence and risk of thromboembolic phenomena was less than 0.0001%, which is approximately 200 to 300 times lesser than the general population for the same disease. So I think we have to look at it in a context. We have to see it as in a comparison. We can't see statistics in isolation. And I'm sure AstraZeneca would be able to defend itself legally purely on medical scientific facts.
Yes. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar, come in here on, of course, what you make of this revelation now, this admission now, what it says of the WHO, which gave swift approval to it and was hesitant to clear the Indian vaccine. Obviously, the politics that was at play at that point, and the embarrassment that hopefully they should feel right now looking at this admission. And also, what you feel as someone who has taken perhaps this vaccine or knows of people who have taken this vaccine now, who haven't heard of such an admission earlier.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uday. As far as the fact that WHO should be, feeling remorseful of if you compare the manner in which the alacrity with which the approval was given to whether it is the Moderna or Pfizer or Covishield, and the delays that they took as far as Covaxin is concerned. I think there are many more, much more severe and serious infractions that have been committed by WHO for which they need to be, looking within, rather than this is not the only one. This is one of those. It affects India because, it's an Indian company, Bharat Biotech, that was affected. So that is why we feel it particularly. But I think the manner in which the WHO went about declaring, even right from the beginning, that this was something that, could be, it was a communicable disease, and, the delays that took place and how they were taken along by China, and giving WHO giving a clean check to China on all of this. I think that is a much more serious matter that they need to be ashamed of, that they need to, explain. And of course, this is also one of those. After these, the two panelists who have spoken, and I quite agree with both of them, I would just like to make one or 2 points. One is that, in addition to the those who were having comorbidities, or those who might have started sort of, exerting themselves or exercising soon after taking the vaccines, I think there were some general cases also. Maybe the numbers were not all that many. There were some general cases also who were affected by this. And in that context, I think definitely this is something that, the admission that the AstraZeneca has made, that is going to send some sort of bring in unease and discomfort to a large number of people, particularly, all of us here, I think, in the country have taken 3 doses. In many other countries, I have seen, particularly in the United States, there are people who have taken 5 or 6 doses of, whatever different vaccines there are. I don't know. I don't think in India we are going to, or in any other part now that COVID in that intensity, it is definitely not there present anywhere. So I don't think we are going to be take another dose of that. But if such a case were to arise, I'm sure it would make some people quite uncomfortable. I think for those of us who have gone through it and without any problems, I don't think that's going to create a problem, be an issue. The second part is, we've heard so many stories about whether it is about Pfizer, whether it is about Moderna, that their side effects have been much worse than that of AstraZeneca. I think what the statistics that has been given by Dr. Bagai is very illustrative, that very few, minuscule number of cases have been there which have been affected. While I recall that even when there was at the Davos Economic Forum, the CEO of Pfizer was there, and so many cases had been lodged that there were so many side effects. And at that time also, they would not acknowledge, they would not accept. So if we are to compare even, AstraZeneca to some of those vaccines, I think AstraZeneca has done quite well for itself. And the last point that I would like to make here is that, the alacrity with which the approvals were given, maybe under the circumstances, because the whole thing started coming out in February, March 2020, and there was a rush to get the vaccines, and we were able to get the approval of the vaccines by the end of the year, AstraZeneca, and even I think Covaxin by the beginning of 2021. So I think at that time, it was the need of the hour that even without going through all the tests and all the, what are normally done, which take about 5, 6, 7 years for any pharmaceutical medication or vaccine to be approved. It takes them all that much time. But there it was, this is after all once in a century pandemic. So the authorities concerned also had to act very, very quickly. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it was in the fitness of things that they took the approval. And I think it took this action and gave this approval when they actually did.
All right. Let me, in fact, take that across to Dr. Narendra Saini as well. Dr. Narendra Saini, as someone who, of course, has been associated with IMA as a prominent post holder, what is your sense your first reaction to this admission by AstraZeneca? Is it surprising for you, or is this something that was expected? This is something that was talked about by many people, that were there side effects of certain vaccines or not?
Sir, I am a person also, and I am a microbiologist also. I will be speaking in that perspective also. One, we have to understand that COVID was an extraordinary disease. Still, we are learning about the side effect of the disease. Even I do not know, we are learning that some people are still having osteoarthritis. Maybe the side effect of COVID are also having this TTH and other kind of disease also. One. Second is, as I said, and everybody knows, my previous speaker also said, it was an extraordinary pandemic where we have never seen the disease before. And the vaccination, it takes around 10 years. If we see about any other vaccination, it takes more than 10 years to come in the market. In these circumstances, this has come within 1 year, 10 months. Within 10 months, our scientific people have been able to brought this vaccine. I can say proudly that I also got a Covishield vaccine. Now, coming to the side effect. Side effects are anything. Even I take food, extra food, I have there are side effects of a food also. So side effects will be there. But is this side effect are more than what is expected? One is its side effects are more than what the disease can cause? My previous speakers have already pointed out that these side effects are much, much lesser than what it is there because of the disease. And there are 3 phases of trial in cases of all vaccination. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. All these 3 trials have been combined because the severity of the disease was so much that we have to combine all these phase 1, phase 2 trials and come out with a scientific data which proves that these kind of vaccines which are there in the market are effective. And they have proven to be effective. That is how we have been able to control the disease. If these vaccinations would not have come, I think many more deaths would have happened and this disease still would have been there. But because of this vaccination and Covishield in particular, in India especially, this has come and we all are saved also. So their side effects will keep on coming. The AstraZeneca is very scientifically said there are side effects, TTH and all those things which is there. But only thing is, are the side effects much more than what the disease can cause? Or is it so much that we have to stop this vaccination? Still, that stage has not come. These side effects are within the limits, as has been pointed out in various studies. And the good point is, this is a normal phenomena that all these in the phase 3 trials, you will find these trials and we then have a scientific data that how much these statistics is significant. Right now, this statistic is not significant that we should stop worrying about it. The only thing is that people should know, the scientific committee, people should know, the doctors should know that yes, if the vaccination has been given, then sometimes the people might come and we should have a preparation for that. That is how this should be taken. Not having an overreaction that should stop it, or there should be a confusion in the mind of people whether we should take it or not take it. The scientific data, as far as a microbiologist, as far as I am a person, it shows that we should be a doctor should be keeping in mind that sometimes this TTH type of a thing is be there, and should be cautious of it. That is all.
Okay, let me take that across to Dr. PSV Rao as well. Dr. PSV Rao, come in here on your assessment of this revelation, what it means for people. Should they be scared? Those who've taken this vaccine, is it something that is just a rarest of rare occurrence, or is there an actual fear of blood clotting and possibly heart attacks because of that as well, as a result of certain side effects of this vaccine as admitted by AstraZeneca?
Good evening to you and all panelists and those who are viewing this show. I don't think we should do any fear mongering. Any procedure, any drug, any vaccine could have some side effects. As long as these are extremely rare, you are better off taking or undergoing these procedures than trying to avoid it. I myself have taken Covishield all the 3 doses, and I don't think I'm going to keep worrying about if any of this TTP will happen to me. Or I have also prescribed it to a lot of people, encourage a lot of people to take vaccine. It is far better that it is these vaccines which have stopped the pandemic. It is far better that you have a vaccine rather than expose yourself to the pandemic and even run the risk of death. Now, as to between the vaccines, my personal preference will always be for something which is time tested, like the technology which was used for Covaxin. I took Covishield. Covishield was relatively new, but this technology has been used earlier in other vaccines. Of course, the mRNA vaccine was totally new. It was being developed for cancer, and instead it was repurposed for this coronavirus. And hence, we had less historical knowledge of likely complications with it. So, I don't think we should be really frightened, because we had only Covaxin and Covishield and a few others, but most of the people received one of these 2. And I don't think really people need to be afraid of it. Obviously, anything you do, there will be a slight complication. Even if you get on the road and you are driving, there could be an accident. So, it doesn't mean that you don't get onto the road. So, this is something we'll have to accept. The incidence is so low, considering the massive number of Covishield doses which have been given, that I don't think we need to be afraid of.
Okay, we don't need to be afraid of it, but it does certainly show politics as well, doesn't it?
Yes.
At the highest level, which the WHO practiced at that time, Dr.
Yes, what I was very upset about, and a lot of us doctors were upset about, was that Covaxin, which is based on a very well tested technology. We have used it for various diseases over many years, and we knew it was very safe. They took ages accepting our data, accepting the studies done in India for its safety, and it was very obvious that time that China, which was manipulating the WHO, was trying their best to suppress our efforts and our efforts to even distribute it to the whole world. They were more keen on distributing their vaccine, which on the long run didn't work, whereas ours worked. Now, what is interesting is that they had one of their vaccines, 2 of their vaccines had also used the same technology. But how it differed from our Covaxin is this, that when you put a dead virus, these are all using the actual virus and making it ineffective in multiplying, and then using it to instigate the body's defense mechanism. So, when you do that, the problem is that the body immediately scavenges it and gets rid of these dead viruses. Whereas, if you want the body to take recognition of that and act against it and develop a immunity, you need to add something else which will stimulate it. Now, that additive was different between what the Chinese were using and what we were using. Whereas ours worked, theirs didn't work. So, we were very lucky that we had these vaccines developed very quickly, one based on very well tested technology, the other not so well, not such a long history, but Covishield also, that same technology had been used. So, politics was there. They delayed as much as they could in giving recognition to Covaxin, which they should have given much earlier, so that more people around the world could have been helped.
Okay. Let me quickly, go to Dr. Saini for a quick comment. Dr. Saini, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as has been already pointed out, side effects are there for everyone. And AstraZeneca, what said was that, yes, it has given it the scientific way of saying things, that the side effects are, this side effect is there, but important is side effects in how much population.
Okay, I think we've lost Dr. Saini there, unfortunately. Yes, I'll leave a closing comment to you. Okay, Dr. Saini is back with us. Go ahead. Yes, Dr. Seni, we had lost you. Please complete your point.
Okay. I am saying the statistics is very, very important. Not the statistics to be seen, whether this vaccine compared to other vaccination is it giving more side effect or less effect. Secondly, if all these side effects are there, whether they are statistically important or not, I think at present these
Okay, Dr. Seni, your
don't-
connection is breaking, unfortunately. 30 seconds, Dr. Bagai, your closing comment.
Yeah, so if you look at any numbers, you got to look at it in context. One, is the vaccine, in terms of vaccine efficacy, good? It has been marvelous. It has been proven across hundreds of studies worldwide. They're all peer-reviewed and randomized controlled trials that it prevents infections, prevents transmission, decreases infection, decreases the risk of death, critical disease, ICU admissions, and indeed long-term mortality. Point number two, the vaccine has been proven to be better in terms of efficacy and side effects than all other vaccines put together worldwide. Point number three, the incidence of any of these side effects, be it thromboembolic phenomena or myocarditis or any other thing which has been highlighted, I would say very surprisingly now, is lesser than the incidence in general population. That means this is not causing over and above excess deaths or mortality or morbidity. Point number four, the WHO role as far as the entire pandemic is concerned, a lot is left desired. I think the biggest fault which they made was not to declare it in time that the disease is airborne. And we wasted 4.5 months in the initial part of the pandemic.
Yes, but will there be any accountability, Ambassador Sajjana, for the vaccine makers and the regulators, or will this all be forgotten?
No, I think as far as the vaccine regulators, I don't think there needs to be any accountability in the sense, because, as our panelists have very clearly proved, that, any particular aspect, you go out, you are breathing some air, that is also going to have a side effect on your system. Everything will have a side effect on your system.
Yes.
You have to see what is the nature of that side effect. I think if there is any accountability, it has to be as far as the WHO officials are concerned, because, as I had mentioned earlier, and as Dr. Bagai has also mentioned right now, the delay that took place as far as announcing, that this was a communicable disease. And you would recall that on 13th of January, the first case, if my memory serves me correctly, had appeared in Bangkok in Thailand, as far as, through the tourists and through the people who were going there. But still, when on the 26th January, 27th January, Dr. Tedros, he goes to China and he meets Xi Jinping and he gives a clean chit and he says that the manner in which they are dealing with this issue is exemplary. So I think it kept on getting postponed, and it was only, again, if my memory is correct, on the 13th of April that it was declared that this was a problem and it could be sort of, communicated through the air. So I think the accountability has to be of the WHO and of the WHO officials.
Yes.
Because if a ban had been put to travel from China to all these countries, I think the magnitude of the tragedy would definitely not have been as much as we have, as the world was.
All right. Okay, let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this discussion.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.